Hi there. This is a reading for Capricorn, and right off the bat, I guess I should tell you, we're going to be doing a tarot card spread, and then I'm also going to be talking about a hexagram that I cast for you today, Capricorn. We got hexagram number 20, which is called Observation. And I'll get into that in just a minute, but I do want to let you know that as I was connecting with your energy, shuffling your cards off camera, I was getting images of people on like an airplane, and specifically seeing you, Capricorn, as a figure there on the airplane. And whether or not you're like actually physically traveling somewhere, I think is irrelevant. I think it's more about the image of going up into the air and being able to see the earth from a higher perspective, being able to see your life and your reality from a different perspective, and making mental movements. If we think about traveling through the air as like a process of thinking, a process of thought, a process of observation, contemplation, and utilizing those movements to come to different conclusions, different destinations, and seeing things in a different way, both off the ground and once you're back in the world again, so to speak. And all of this was happening before I'd even finished your hexagram and realized that you had wind over earth. So these three lines, these three yin lines on the bottom are the trigram of earth, and then the two yang lines with the one yin line at the bottom is the trigram of wind. So wind over earth, which as soon as I finished this hexagram and saw what it was, I was like, oh my gosh, it's just like the airplane, being in the air above the earth. And we're going to get into what the hexagram has to say using Benabel Wen's I Ching, the Oracle book. Absolutely confirms the impressions that I was getting just with this airplane imagery. I couldn't help but laugh when I was kind of quickly glancing through what was written about this hexagram. But yeah, we'll get into that. I'm just going to be reading the Oracle for this hexagram. I won't be going through it line by line, and you don't have any changing lines today, so it seems like this scenario, whatever you're in, is relatively stable. It's kind of more of like a slower moving process. But I do invite you to, go online, find a free resource to read about hexagram number 20, to go through the line-by-line delineations, because it might offer you more insight than what you're going to get with me going through this oracle reading now. So without further ado, the oracle says, before you proceed, give the matter a thorough reassessment. A more complete observation of the situation is called for. Do you know your own merits and your own faults? Are you sure that you are entirely in the right? Honor the gods and ancestors to receive further insight. And as I'm reading that, I'm thinking about, being up in an airplane. I don't know, a lot of us, I don't know about you guys, but when I travel, I feel like being in an airplane is like a time when I feel most within the hand of the divine, because whatever happens, of course, is, the pilot is in control of whether we stay up or we go down, but there are other things outside of our control. You feel very vulnerable, very exposed to the whims of the cosmos when you're up there, or at least I do. So there's more of like a communion that takes place in those states. So if you're in like a state of contemplation or reevaluating a situation and trying to see things from a different perspective, come to new conclusions about the same circumstance that you're in, maybe trying to form or bridge that communion with the divine, so to speak, even if that's just your ancestors, like putting out an ofrenda, like for those of you that are Hispanic, like the tradition of creating like an altar dedicated to your ancestors, having their pictures put in place, offering them flowers, food, music, incense, doing the same thing for your whatever your idea of the divine is. It could be helpful for you for kind of helping you to integrate through this process of reevaluation and reconnection. Don't know why reconnection was the word I used there, but maybe relevant. Okay. Sometimes it is not the judgment that needs observation, but the judge, meaning you, the inner self, the perceiver, not the perceived, not the situation that you're not necessarily examining the situation, but rather examining the examiner, examining you, yourself. To contemplate the matter, go alone where you can observe the wind moving the earth. Nature will give you the counsel you seek. A wind rustles the earth, watching, observing. Kings past call upon the four guardians of the universe to aid them toward the correct guidance of their people. You must see and also be seen. Others will then put their trust and faith in you. In the ancient rituals of honoring the divine, there is a moment of quiet introspective between the commencement of prayers to the divine and the explicit appeal to the divine for support of human endeavors, along with the ceremonial sacrifice. That in-between moment of quiet introspection is where you are now. Make the most of it. This is the time for you to cleanse yourself of inferior motivations. Examining, rather than examining the judgment, examining the judge. That, kind of re-emphasizing that point. Reevaluate the inquiry at hand and restate for yourself what your motivations are. If your true motivations do not align with the divine, address your motivations. Then you are ready to ask the oracle for the answer. After sincere contemplation of the matter at hand, proceed with the second divination. There is a need for contemplation. Reevaluate your motivations behind the endeavor. Observe the wind, observe the earth. And again, definitely go through line by line to learn a little bit more about this hexagram and what it has to offer. I'm not going to go through that right now, but we'll go ahead and move on to the tarot portion and see how these two compare. Pardon. There we go. Okay. Let's see if these want to be shuffled anymore for Capricorn. Funny, as I'm shuffling these cards, I'm looking over at not a greeting card, but a piece of artwork that I have on my bookshelf, and on the back of it, it has this word bold. I don't know if that's relevant. We'll see. Any more? I think that's it. Okay. So, first card for Capricorn is the Tower. That's the card of Mars. And right now, where is Mars? Mars is in Cancer, opposite you, Capricorn. Aspecting you, looking at you from Cancer. We'll get into that a little more, maybe. Princess of Swords could represent an air sign or a circumstance. Air signs being Gemini, Libra, and Aquarius. Then we have the Two of Wands, first decan of Aries, which is another Mars-ruled decan, so more Mars. Mars, bars. Knight of Wands in reverse is next. So thus far we have fire and air represented on the table. And air kind of feeds fire, doesn't it? Then we have the sun in reverse, which is the sun. More fire. This is more stabilizing fire, though. Nine of Coins, middle decan of Virgo. It's called Gain in this deck. So now we have Earth on the table. Queen of Discs, more Earth in reverse. Maybe. There we go. I love this card. Isn't that pretty? I I think that's you, Capricorn. 3 of coins. We have Lovers. This is Gemini's card. Oh, and the 3 of coins is the middle decan of Capricorn, by the way. Also another Mars ruled decan, so a lot of Mars energy. But we got Gemini here. Then we have 11, which in this deck is Strength, but it's called Lust. Oh, it's right under the sun. Strength is Leo, right? So, bottom of the deck, we have the 3 of Cups. That's the middle decan of Cancer. So again, that kind of Cancer-Capricorn opposition, Mars aspect is kind of being brought to the table here today. So where do we want to begin? I guess with the beginning, Aries. Looking at this 2 of Wands. This sort of burgeoning, initiating type of energy where our passions and our desires align to create and incite change. I think change being a key word here with this Tower, because Mars doesn't like to sit still. Mars doesn't necessarily like stability. Maybe that's not entirely the right way to put it, but I guess the best way to illustrate this is through the opposition of Taurus and Scorpio. Taurus being Venus's sign. Taurus loves stability, loves it when things endure and don't really change very quickly. There's time to sit and enjoy the pleasures of being alive. And then Scorpio is like the antithesis of that. Everything is shifting and changing and is super intense and volatile and stormy and even volcanic. One of the things that I wanted to kind of bring to the fore here is that you only have 3 elements represented on your spread today. So you have majority fire, then you've got earth, and then you have air. And fire, especially with the studying that I've been doing of the I Ching, there's like this notion that fire creates the earth element. When it burns a forest away, or even as it's, spewing out of a volcano, it's creating new fertile ground for new life to flourish upon. It leaves behind nutritious soil that new life can come in and utilize in producing new growth, new life. And the wind is kind of like propelling it, fueling it, feeding it the oxygen it needs to burn and to blaze quickly. And it's like this process of clearing away old constructs, old ideas maybe. When I cast this hexagram, the image that was coming to mind with that hexagram was like sand dunes and like how the wind pushes and shapes and reshapes the landscape. With this fire energy that's coming through on the spread, it's like the energy of passion and desire, lust even, but this very volcanic, I just feel like that's the key word for this reading, volcanic energy that's just, it wants to burn and clear things away. It wants to bury it, but not bury in the sense of like hiding. Like if there's, I'm not even connecting with an emotional underpinning here. Like obviously emotions are relevant, but they're just not represented here on this spread. There's no water here. There's no receptive, cooling, moistening energy. It's all being burned, it's all being laid bare, it's all being cleared, reduced, even dismantled, separated, torn apart. You know, like these are the Marsy types of energies that come through. It's like this Princess of Swords here is giving me the impression of somebody who's trying to like intellectually defend from these energies. Like, if I don't believe that this is happening, then it isn't happening, right? Clearly, there's so much more fire than there is, you know, she's kind of outnumbered, this Princess of Swords. It's like, I feel like these are the old ideas, the old perceptions, even, that are being cleared away. You know, it's like the smoke of the burning, the incense, you know, the sage, it's clearing out the ghosts, even though they're trying to defend themselves and retain their position where they are. They can't be there because the smoke gets in their eyes. I don't know why that's relevant, but like, it pushes them out, it compels them to leave. And the space that's cleared by this burning, by this smoke, this incense, the sage, whatever it is, you know, it's fragrant and it smells like, I'm smelling like fresh dirt. It's clean and it's fertile and it's full of potential. Knight of Wands in reverse. Riding away from the Two of Wands into the Sun. You know, and I'm looking at this because they're both in reverse, and it's connecting me to the imagery of the sun moving towards the southern solstice, you know, in December. You know, and once the sun reaches that point, the sun enters into the sign of Capricorn, because that cardinal point is the beginning of Capricorn. I think the energy is moving in your favor right now. It's moving towards your, I don't know if fulfillment is the right word here, but it's like all this burning away, all this cleansing energy, this reprioritizing, this reinvigorating, this reconnecting with the true passion, the true desire, the true purpose, like the purpose that you have. Reconnecting with that and what it means is leading you into, I heard awakening, but I'm like thinking about the sun. You know, maybe that's relevant, like when the sun comes over the eastern horizon at the start of each day, it's like the awakening, it's the invigorating light that incites action, activity, movement, engagement. You know, maybe although this process, you know, with the tower, with Mars, it can be very disruptive. It can be very, everything can be very unstable, you know, fractured, changing. You can feel like you're trying to defend yourself from an onslaught of energies and oppositions and conflict, and whether that's, you know, mirrored to you through other people, like literal conflict with other people, or it's like an inner conflict, like trying to reevaluate yourself and reevaluate the conclusions that you've come to. You know, going back to that airplane analogy, trying to separate yourself so that you're able to re-examine how you came to the conclusion that you came to, how you made the decisions that you made. And kind of inevitably turning the mirror on yourself, because you're the common denominator in all of this. And maybe this awakening is like a realization of who you've become in this process. You know, the world, your world has been reshaped by fire. Everything's been burned and reduced to its fundamental components. And it's kind of like you remain there. Weird. Like, I was hearing like building sandcastles, like you're going to be there to build sandcastles now. Maybe that's relevant to like the sand dune imagery that I was getting before. But it's like once everything's been reduced to its fundamental components, you're still there and you're still capable of creating something with it. You're still capable of using the space that you now have to do something maybe different than what you were doing previously. But it's like the difference outwardly, the different manifestations that you create are a reflection of the different person that you've become. You know, in this process of reevaluation, of self-inquiry, of going up into the clouds so that you can look at things from a different perspective, you can now see what it is that maybe you were doing wrong or that you weren't doing previously that you want to do now. It's like maybe you were doing something, going through the motions. I'm hearing with this Tower card. I'm looking over at it again. Like going through something without purpose, and then it's like once your eyes opened one morning, like you awakened one morning and you realized how separated you had become from this tower that you've built. Like you've put all this time and this effort into building up this tower, and it seemed like something that you loved and appreciated, and that's why you were building it. But it's like at some point there was a disconnect that happened, and as I'm saying disconnect, I'm looking at this Princess of Swords because she's kind of like deflecting or trying to deflect something, trying to protect herself and keep autonomy from the onslaught from the outside. There's this chasm that you're now trying to bridge, maybe. Interesting. As I'm saying that, I'm getting like this image of like somebody pushing off all the pieces on a chessboard, like onto the ground. And then like picking up new ones and putting them on. Like, I didn't like these pieces. They're made out of ivory, and I don't use ivory. I like wood. It's the strangest image, but it's like not compromising your values where maybe in the past you were compromising. Not compromising your time and your energy to do something that you don't agree with or that you don't like. And instead asserting who you are, who you really are. Because now you realize, now that you know what you were doing previously, you can't do it anymore. Hopefully that makes sense. Like now that you maybe see past a level of self-deception even, there's no recovering it. Which is a good thing, I would think, right? But it's like now there's like a process of like relearning. Which is kind of what I'm getting with this another like Princess of Wands, like relearning, reconnecting, coming to new understandings about maybe new information, new approaches to things. Taking things in a new direction and then kind of learning how to navigate in that new direction. It's like whatever this new direction is, it's leading towards a culmination. You know, the sun is moving down towards Capricorn. It's like this almost poetic expression of the energy moving in your favor. But there is this purification that needs to take place or has taken place beforehand. But it's all leading to this Nine of Coins. It's like when the tower is dismantled and all the stones are kind of laid in disarray everywhere. You know, this Nine of Coins, this middle decan of Virgo, it's like reassembling everything and taking stock and like seeing, oh, I actually have all of these stones, so to speak. I have all this wood that I can use to build something different or to come at it from a different angle. through this process of revision, having come to a new plan for things, a new way for how this can be manifested. Because maybe the approach before was too compromising or too taxing for you, or it just didn't align with your goals or your inner truths even. Because I'm seeing this Queen of Discs and she's in reverse, she's right next to that, and it's kind of like she built this, but she doesn't feel proud of it. She doesn't want to be associated with it. Like it's maybe taken on a life of its own, and it no longer, she's no longer a part of it. And so cue the wildfires that burn it all down. Cue the bulldozer that breaks the tower apart, so that you can start fresh with a renewed sense of purpose, a renewed sense of energy, a new perspective, a new approach. And it's like, it's not like I feel like it's a controlled burn. Like it's not a chaotic process. With this Queen of Wands, she's in a position of power. She's been through it. She knows how to navigate the world. She's created an empire for herself. She knows how to sustain it. She knows how to dictate, maybe delegate's more appropriate. But she knows how to work with this power and how to shape her life in a way, because she's done it before. She's done it already. I'm hearing but if I knew what I knew now, I would have started from a different approach. I would have started differently. I would have done something different in the beginning. But it's like, you can do that now. Like, you can start again now. And I think that's kind of what's happening here. And I'm seeing that as the progression from this Two of Wands, this Mars-ruled first decan of Aries, to the Three of Coins, another Mars-ruled decan of Capricorn. It's like aligning your purposes to a single point and making something with it, creating something, manifesting a physical reality, something that provides maybe money or, how do I word this? Interesting. Okay, so obviously I burped right there, but I'm looking at these cards and my brain was immediately like, we're digesting this. The process of dissolving something is to break it into its fundamental components. You're digesting it into its building blocks, essentially. I heard I am the eater of worlds. That's what Mars, this tower energy, you even have this mouth here, but there's fire coming out of it. But it's I am the eater of worlds. This notion of taking in, of swallowing this world, this life that you've built, and digesting it, breaking it apart, and turning it into something that you can use in a different way. It becomes energy that's, allowing your body to move. Kind of a, maybe more metaphorical, of course, but it's just the sense of dissolution and recombining into something different. There's alchemy happening, and as I'm saying alchemy, I looked over at this Lover's card here. This need to harmonize, to synchronize, to align. You have these two wands, they're crossed in the middle point, that's their meeting point, and they're aligned purpose. When desire and purpose are aligned, anything is possible. You can create something that's profound. I'm looking at the sun. It kind of emanates and radiates the light of truth, the light of love, the light of purpose. I'm like getting so consumed looking into this. Just the imagery, like I'm like getting pulled to the center point. It's like all the zodiacal signs that are arranged around in that wheel, and even the dancing figures up here on the hill. It's like everything is like fading away, and I'm just like being consumed by this golden solar energy. Please pardon the aircraft. They've been doing a lot lately. But yeah, it's like everything is dissolving into the background, like everything's fading into the golden light that's kind of overtaking everything else. Kind of leading me down into this strength card, this lust card, because this is like the self-realization. This is the self-confidence that comes when you have not calculated, but when you have discerned what your purpose is, and you've established that you're not going to compromise this purpose or these values in whatever you do in life, and instead you're going to create the life that you want in the shape that you think is most suitable for your aims. You know, there's not going to be any room for unnecessary compromise anymore. You're not going to sacrifice your values or your resources or your time in a way to make things better for somebody else. Not in like a selfish way, because I feel like you've been very selfless, and you are very selfless. Hopefully. I mean, whatever. We won't get into that. But in more of like, I can't be of the best, I can't be of service unless my own needs are cared for, and unless I am unwilling to sacrifice my own happiness and my own comfort. Isn't quite the right word, but it's close. I heard, this is my kingdom, and I'm going to rule it the way that I see fit. And maybe the past expression of what this kingdom was, you know, the one that's being cleared away and destroyed by this tower moment. You know, the sandcastle that's being blown away into something different. It's like whatever that was maybe was built with others' input in mind. And maybe it was helpful at the time. You know, it got you to where you are now. Of course, it was all necessary for the ultimate manifestation, but you've learned a lot, you've grown a lot, and you're not the same person that you were when you did that then. And so you're breaking that apart, you're dismantling it and coming to a recognition of its basic, fundamental, elemental parts and components. And you have a new plan for how everything's going to piece together and take shape. And it's going to lead you to this 3 of Cups right here. You know, a sense of fulfillment, a sense of joy and enjoyment, and appreciation for what you have and what you've done. You know, that other people can even enjoy and interact with. And it's interesting, I kind of absent-mindedly, I had the cards laid out just kind of like in a basic rectangular spread, but I rearranged them into two kind of arrow pointed lines. And the image that's coming through to kind of convey this energy, it's like I see a bunch of silt at the bottom of a water glass. And I don't see it as like a source of pollution in this sense. I see you as like the current of water that goes down and scoops up the silt and spreads it out into the water, and this water turns a different color because of it. And like you fully I don't know if it's like a cloaking mechanism, like you're hiding yourself in this process, or you're just trying to more fully invigorate your own essence, which I think maybe is being represented by this silt at the bottom. It's like your own essence needs to pervade the whole substrate, the entire glass of water. You're not just going to be there at the bottom, kind of letting the currents take you which way they want to take you. It's like you're the current now. You're making the movements. You're making the choices. You can fully embody yourself within this vessel. It's like that's the work. That's the culmination. That's the abundance. That's the joy that you're shooting for, that you're aiming for. And as I said, shooting for, I'm like seeing like an archer, like drawing back on the bow, and then, obviously releasing the arrow and hitting the bullseye target. Like you're right on the mark because you took the time to learn from your experiences, and you're being present with this process as it's unfolding now in a way that maybe you weren't before. And because of that care, because of that extra attention, because of that wisdom, you're able to hit the target because you've gotten there before. It's just a matter of the approach now, the angle that you shoot from. You don't want to stand on a block of ice without shoes on, so find a nice warm patch of grass to stand on instead. And even if it's like 45 degrees that way, like you can still see the target and you can still hit it. Strange imagery there, but I hope it makes sense. Okay, and I think that's all that's coming through. They've gone a little silent now. So yeah, hopefully that resonated or offered some clarity in some way, maybe encouraged you in some way. But yeah, I wish you all the best, Capricorn. I know these are interesting times, for a lack of a better way to put it, and I hope that you're hanging in there okay. So, wish you the best. Be good.